الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We began the discussion on the laws of fasting and we covered the legislation of fasting and the history of fasting, how it became obligatory upon the Muslims, and the philosophy of fasting, and who is it obligatory upon. Now we will continue on with the month of Ramadan. This is a big issue. How does the month of Ramadan begin, and how does any Islamic month begin? Because the end of Ramadan is also an issue when we try to determine Eid. Of course, this is a controversial issue somewhat because different scholars have different views. These views are the views of Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani. Of course, there are other scholars that have other views regarding the proving how the holy month begins, how an Islamic month begins. Because in the Islamic teachings and the Islamic laws, the months are lunar months, and it begins with the beginning and the birth of a new month, and that's when you're able to see the crescent. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi says, "Sum lirru'ya waftur lirru'ya." Fast when you sight, and break the fast when you sight the hilal. So scholars say that if you see the crescent of Ramadan yourself, you see it yourself, then it becomes obligatory upon you to fast the next day. Or two just witnesses see the crescent, and there should be no reason to believe that they are mistaken. So for example, you have a group of 300, a group of 500 people, they all go out searching for the hilal, and only two come back and they say, we saw it. And they have to describe how it was, the shape of it, which direction it was. This is all something that they all need to, the view needs to be the same. And if 500 or 300 people go out and just two come back, then this shows us that maybe there's a big chance that they're mistaken. But for example, say 150 people came back, that's 50%. Or say 200 people, 250 people came back and they said, we saw the hilal, then that would make it more likely to be accepted. And here, this is usually the marja' makes the decision. People that have seen the hilal, they go to the scholars and they tell them, we saw it, this many people saw the hilal, and therefore the marja' would say, okay, it was cited in this particular area. Another way is if 30 days have passed in Sha'ban. The Islamic months are either 29 days or 30 days. We don't have a month that is longer than 30 days. So if the month of Sha'ban is already 30 days, then this is what we call as ikmal idda, meaning that we cannot add another day to the month of Sha'ban. So therefore, that 31st day is actually the first day of the month of Ramadan. And the same goes with the end of Ramadan. So we have Ramadan is either 29 days or 30 days. It can't be 31 days. So that 31st day, it would actually be the day of Eid, the first of Shawwal. Another way is if it becomes widely accepted in your city by people that the month of Ramadan has begun. So you go to a city, you didn't look at the hilal, you didn't talk to anyone, you just woke up the next day and everyone's telling you, yes, today's the first day of Ramadan. Or the eve of, they say tomorrow's the first day of Ramadan. You find shaya', meaning hundreds and thousands of people, they're all considering it the first day of Ramadan, then you just follow what they're doing. Another very important point is that we cannot consider the last day of Sha'ban, which is considered Yawm al-Shak, as the day of Ramadan until you are certain that it is Ramadan. So there's a day of the last day of Sha'ban, which is the day 30, say. You cannot consider that the first day of Ramadan unless you are certain that it is the first day of Ramadan. So we cannot begin the ibadah, the worship of the holy month of Ramadan, unless we are certain and we have certainty that it is the holy month of Ramadan. And similarly, we cannot end the month of Ramadan, just because I see people, there's a group of people, they're celebrating Eid, and they said tomorrow is Eid. I can't just consider Eid unless I am certain, or it goes with the view of my marja', the view of my scholar, then I would be able to consider it the day of Eid. Otherwise, I can't just, decide on, okay, since a group of people are considering Eid, then I will also consider Eid. Now, regarding the ways of citing the hilal, different scholars have different views. Some people say you have to see it with the naked eye. Others say you could see it with a telescope. Others say you could do it through calculations and through technology, what the technology tells you. This is an issue of what different scholars are. And different scholars have different views regarding this. My advice to all the mu'mineen, to all the believers, is let us not get in this drama. Every year, people, they come and what is going on? And they come and they, what's going on? And they cause, some of them, they cause fitna and they cause problems. Your view is to follow your marja'. If your marja' says tomorrow is Ramadan, you do tomorrow Ramadan. If your marja' says tomorrow is Eid, you do tomorrow's Eid. If your marja' didn't, then follow what the marja' says. You are following that marja' because you believe that marja' is a knowledgeable person. So take the advice of the marja'. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Now we go to fasting. What is fasting? Fasting is abstaining from certain things. And we mentioned what they are: food and sexual desires. There are actually 8 things that we're going to talk about. And you abstain from them between Fajr and Maghrib with the intention of seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So say, for example, I slept. I was awake all night and then I slept all day. From Fajr until Maghrib time, I was sleeping. In the winter, this happens sometimes. If some people, they're working the whole night, they come and they sleep the whole day. Now, if you slept and you had not intended on fasting, but you did not eat that day, you were not intending, you did not have the intention of the seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that won't count as a siyam. That won't count as a fasting. Say, for example, you were awake, but you were working all day from the moment you woke up until Maghrib time, and you didn't have time to go and eat, and you didn't do anything that would break your fast. That's still not considered fasting if you did not have the intention of seeking nearness to Allah. Because fasting is a ibadah. Just like wudu is a ibadah, just like ghusl is a ibadah, just like salah is a ibadah. If I just go and wash my face and my hands because it's hot, I'm not doing it seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Will that count as a wudu? No. That will just be me washing my hands. If I don't eat from dawn until Maghrib and I'm not seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have not made the intention, then it won't count as fasting. It would just count as a person not eating, or a person is on a diet. So a very important condition is that because it's a ibadah, because it's a worship, you have to make the intention and seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, abstaining from Fajr until Maghrib. When is Fajr and when is Maghrib? Fajr is dawn. It's the start of the morning twilight, the beginning of the first light that comes in the sky, in the east. That's the first light that begins. That is dawn. That is Fajr. That's the time that we have to stop eating. That's the time that we have to refrain from anything that breaks the fast. And before that time, we have to have made the intention of fasting. Now, some people, when it comes to the month of Ramadan, they get confused. They say, then what's Fajr and what's Imsak? Fajr is the time of the morning prayer, the Fajr prayer or the Salat al-Subuh. And Fajr is the dawn, the beginning of the first light of the morning twilight. However, Imsak, it means hold on, don't eat. That's the time that I refrain from eating, that I refrain from anything that might break the fast. Now, why do they pass out in the masajid, they pass out the imsakiyah, meaning the time that you should stop eating. The reason why we have this is because of precaution, because it's very difficult to distinguish exactly the second of Fajr. It's very difficult to distinguish, especially with all the light that's in the sky. Now, if we were in a desert, you would be able to see the Fajr, the first morning light. However, we can't tell exactly when that is. And you find different places, they say, for example, a different time when Fajr is. So because we are not sure, we are not 100% sure, we give ourselves this, 10 minutes, 5 minutes time that we stop eating, we refrain from anything that may break the fast. Out of precaution, we stop eating, and that is the time of imsak. However, if you are 100% certain that Fajr, say for example, is 5 a.m., you're 100% certain that Fajr is 5 a.m., then you could eat all the way up until right before 5 a.m. But because we are not certain exactly when Fajr is, so the paper, the Imsakiya says, for example, stop eating at 4:50 because Fajr might be at 5 o'clock. So therefore, you stop eating about 10 minutes before, just out of precaution. And my advice to the mu'mineen, to the believers, during that time, you stop eating and you go and you pray Salatul Layl. Go and pray a few rak'ahs. Wait, keep praying until it becomes Fajr time. Then you will move on, and then after Fajr, once you are certain that it is Fajr, then you can stop, then you can pray. Of course, also scholars here, they also do another ihtiyat. Some scholars, because they want to make sure that it's 100% Fajr, so they add another 10 minutes to the Fajr time, just to make sure that they are 100% in the Fajr time. Then that is when they pray the Fajr prayer. So they give themselves about 20 minutes. 10 minutes before Fajr, they stop eating. And 10 minutes after Fajr, they go and they pray, so that they make sure that they have stopped eating before Fajr time, and they make sure that they have prayed once it is 100% Fajr time. So this is the time of Fajr. Now, what is sunrise? Sunrise is when the disk of the sun appears in the eastern horizon, when the whole sun starts rising. Of course, not many of us witness the sunrise. Probably many of you have seen the sunset when the disk of the sun goes down. The sunrise, that is the time that it doesn't have to do with fasting. Once the sun rises, then Fajr prayer becomes qada. The morning prayer, that Fajr prayer, it's from the beginning of the first twilight of dawn, of the light, until the sun rises. Once the sun rises, then Fajr prayer becomes qada. I just wanted to add that there. It doesn't have anything to do with fasting. Now, what is Maghrib? Because it says fast from Fajr until Maghrib. Maghrib is also a difficult issue, and it also causes some controversy, because different schools of thought have different views as what Maghrib is. Some, they say it's the sunset. When the sun sets, that is Maghrib. And this is the opinion of the Sunni school of thought. And there are some Shia scholars that also this is their opinion. However, the majority Shi'i opinion is that Maghrib is about 15 minutes after the sun sets. So say the sun sets at 7 p.m., then you wait about 15 minutes, depending on the location and on the season of the year. But the way to tell exactly when it is the Shar'i, the Islamic Maghrib time, the time of prayer and the time to break your fast, is when the redness in the eastern horizon is gone. So the sun rises in the east, but then it sets in the west. In the west, there's going to be redness in the sky for a while after the sun sets. It's going to take probably up to 30 minutes after sunsets. However, the redness in the eastern horizon, it will go away about 15 minutes, 13 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer depending on the time of the year or where you are. Then once the redness in the eastern horizon is gone, that is Maghrib time. That is Maghrib time. And the reason why our scholars, they take that precaution and they don't break the fast with sunset and they wait that 15 minutes until Maghrib, is because of this verse. Allah says in the Quran, وَأَتِمُّ الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ, and continue the fast until night, until it becomes dark. At sunset, it's not dark. When the sun is setting, it's not dark outside. You could see it will start getting darker about 15 minutes later, and about 30 minutes later, it will become totally dark. So this is why we have to wait until Maghrib, the Shar'i Maghrib time, and we explained what Fajr and what Maghrib is. Now, the intention of fasting. We said that you have to intend, you have to make the intention of fasting before beginning the fast. Because fasting is an act of worship and you must seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today, some people, they're on a diet, or because intermittent fasting is the cool thing to do now, so some people, they're just doing it. No, you need to make the intention. Now, how do you make the intention? A lot of people, they wait and they think that you have to utter things. No, intention can be in the heart. It doesn't need to be spoken. It doesn't need to be anything. You don't need to say anything, as long as you know what you're doing and who you're doing it for. You're fasting and you're doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, for the wajib fasting, the obligatory fasting, like the fasting in the month of Ramadan, the intention must be made before Fajr. You can't just wake up and say, okay, today I'm going to decide on fasting. No, you have to make the intention before Fajr, either before you sleep, at night, you make the intention, or to make it easy, on the eve of the first of the Ramadan, when they say tomorrow is the first of the month of Ramadan, you make the intention to fast the whole month. It's that as simple as that. You say in your heart, I'm fasting the whole month, the month of Ramadan. So this is for a wajib, for an obligatory fast, you have to make the intention before Fajr. Now, for a qada fast, for a makeup fast, say for example, in last month of Ramadan, you were sick, you had an excused fast, you broke your fast and now you have to make it up before the year. And we're going to talk about that, inshallah. You have to make it up. If you miss the day, you have to make it up. So this is a day that you have to make up. When do you have to make the intention for a qada fast? Here, scholars say, you can make the intention, you have some leeway, you have some leniency to make the intention up until dhuhr, up until noon time. So say, for example, tomorrow, you woke up, you slept in a little, you woke up at 9, 10, and you said, you know what? I didn't make the intention to fast before Fajr. I wasn't planning on fasting. But since I slept in a little, let me just continue the day and let me fast. As long as you have not eaten, you have not done anything to break the fast, then at that moment, you can make the intention before noon. As long as it's before dhuhr time, you make the intention to fast, to continue the day and fast, as long as you have not broken the fast. Now, for a mustahab fast, say tomorrow, you woke up afternoon, you woke up with dhuhr time. You stayed up all night and you woke up, say at 1 o'clock, at 1:30, after the dhuhr time. And you said, you know what, I slept this much. I only have a few more hours till Maghrib. It's a mustahab, it's a recommended fast. It's the month of Rajab, the month of Sha'ban, and you don't have to make up a day, because if you have to make up a day, scholars say, Sayyid Sistani says, you have to make up the day that you missed before doing anything wajib, before doing anything recommended, not wajib. You have to make up what you missed before doing what is recommended. So here, you don't have any days to make up, and you woke up afternoon, and you had not eaten, you had not done anything to break the fast. You say, you know what, I'm going to continue the fast. You have all the way until Maghrib time, right before Maghrib. If you have not eaten anything, you have not done anything, you could say, okay, I only have, say, 5 more hours left, 4 more hours left in the day. I want to make the intention to make this day a day of fasting, and I will get thawab for it, and you make it a day of fasting. So this is regarding the intention of fasting. For the wajib, you have to do it before Fajr. For the qada, you have before noon to make the intention. And for the recommended, general recommended, you have all the way until Maghrib. Right before Maghrib, you can make the intention. Now, there are certain things that invalidate the fast. And scholars say there are 8 things that invalidate the fast. I'm going to go through them quickly, and then we'll explain every single one of them. We won't be able to finish the whole list today. One is eating and drinking. This is obvious. Eating and drinking invalidates the fasting, the siyam. Sexual intercourse, that invalidates the siyam, the fasting. Masturbation, which results in ejaculation, this also invalidates the fast. Ascribing false things to God, to Rasulullah, and to the 12 Imams, the Ma'sumeen, to say, for example, God says this in the Quran when Allah does not say that. To say Rasulullah said such and such, fabricating a hadith. To say Imam al-Askari, Imam al-Sadiq, Imam al-Baqir said this when the Imam did not say that, and you know the Imam did not say that, that will break the fast. It's not just a haram, but it will break the fast, and we will explain it inshallah. Causing thick dust to reach the throat, and this is why some scholars say smoking invalidates the siyam. Others say smoking is not thick dust. So this is an issue. We're going to talk about that later on, inshallah. 6, remaining in a state of ritual impurity, remaining in the state of janabah. After intercourse, you have to do the ghusl. We have to do the ritual ghusl. Just like for salah, you have to do the wudu. Sometimes you have to do a ghusl. You have to do a shower. So remaining in the state of ritual impurity, choosing to remain, even though you that state is over. For example, janabah. You, for example, had sexual intercourse before Fajr, and you chose to continue and allow Fajr to come, and you are still in the state of janabah. That is haram, and that invalidates the fast. Remaining in the hayd and in the nifas. So for a lady in the menstrual cycle, she's cleansed. She's done with the menstrual cycle. She did not do the ghusl. That is remaining in the ritual impurity. When she was able to, so she was able to do the ghusl, but she did not do the ghusl. So therefore, that is haram, and that invalidates the fast. Remaining in the state of ritual impurity until Fajr time. Once it's Fajr time, then that will invalidate the fast. Applying liquid enema and vomiting intentionally, to force yourself to vomit, that is something that breaks the fast. Now, regarding eating and drinking, any intentional eating or drinking will break the fast, and it does not matter if it's one bite or a full meal. Even if you took 1 teaspoon of water intentionally, that will invalidate the fast. And it doesn't matter, big or little, whatever it is, if you drink or you eat anything, that will invalidate the fast. That is eating and drinking. So a lot of times we get asked this by non-Muslims. You can't even drink a sip of water? Yes. While we're fasting, we can't even drink a sip of water. Now, eating unintentionally does not break the fast. Say, for example, it was the month of Ramadan, the first day of the Ramadan, and you planned on fasting. You made the intention of fasting before Fajr, but you woke up and then you totally forgot. You went to the fridge and you drank water. Or you ate something. You were unaware. You forgot. You forgot that you were fasting. You just unintentionally went and ate or drank. That does not break the fast. Even if you unintentionally had a full meal, that does not break the fast, because you weren't intending on breaking the fast. It wasn't something that you intended on doing. Now, of course, if you know, then that's a totally different story. Injections and IV do not invalidate the fast. Say you have to go and get an injection. Say a vaccine came out. Say you have to go and get an IV. You were feeling weak. You go to the doctor and they give you an IV. That does not invalidate the fast, even if that gives you energy. Because what is forbidden is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, consuming food, placing food in your stomach. IV gives you energy, but it's not eating. You're not actually eating anything, and you still feel the hunger. So injections and IV do not invalidate the fast. Using an inhaler does not invalidate the fast as long as the medicine only enters into the lungs. You have to be careful. The medicine does not enter into your stomach. If it enters into your stomach, then that's a different story. Then If you have to take it, you're sick and you have to take it, then you shouldn't even be fasting. But say, for example, you needed for your asthma, you needed help breathing, you took the inhaler and it goes straight into your lungs, that does not break the fast. That does not invalidate the fast. Eye drops and ear drops do not invalidate the fast, even if you feel the taste of the medicine. Sometimes if you put an eye drop, you could feel it in the back of your throat. You could feel the taste. Or sometimes if you put eardrop, you could kind of feel it. That does not invalidate the fast. Some scholars say it's makruh. This is an issue we'll cover inshallah later. But it does not break the fast. Medicine applied in the nose does not invalidate the fast as long as it doesn't reach the throat, because the nose is a lot closer and similar to the mouth. So it will come back to the throat. You have to be very careful that it doesn't come to the throat. Then that way, once it goes into the throat, then it would be swallowed. So that is something, it would not invalidate the fast as long as it doesn't reach the throat. Swallowing your own saliva does not invalidate the fast. You have saliva in your mouth, that does not invalidate the fast. However, if you had phlegm, it was so thick, and you coughed it up, and then you swallowed it again, here some scholars say it is makruh, obligatory. You should try to avoid doing that. You should try to avoid doing that, and if that happens, you should spit it out. But your saliva that's in your mouth, you're not consuming something that's outside from the outside, and there's nothing wrong with that. Tasting food, this is an issue. A lot of people, they're cooking while they're fasting. Tasting food does not invalidate the fast as long as the person does not swallow. So say, for example, you want to test if it's spicy or not, if it's salty or not, whatever. You put it in your mouth and then you spit it out. There's nothing wrong with that, and that does not invalidate the fast. Now, if a person feels that they're dying out of thirst and that's it, they're suffering, here scholars say not only they can, if you feel like you're dying, then here it becomes obligatory upon you to break your fast. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want us to hurt ourselves. And for this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made, when you're traveling or when you're sick, you don't need to fast during that time. You make it up later. The purpose of fasting is not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to make things difficult for us. Allah is merciful with us. Allah wants to be easy with us, but we have to benefit as much as we can from the fasting. So if someone feels like they're dying out of thirst, they can break their fast by consuming what is necessary. Say, for example, you take a small cup of water and you drink it, and you don't drink anything else, you don't eat anything, you don't do anything that is also forbidden in the fast. But keep in mind, when you drank the water, that day will not count for you. You will have to make up that day, but it won't be haram. So there's two issues. Sometimes you have excused breaking the fast, like when you're sick or you're traveling. That's an excused breaking of the fast. Allah is not going to punish you for that. But sometimes they don't have an excuse, and they come and they drink or they eat or they do something that breaks the fast. That is haram, and they have to make it up. If someone was dying out of thirst, they can drink, but that's it. They don't do anything else. They only consume what is necessary. They don't do anything else that breaks the fast for the sanctity of the month of Ramadan, because the holy month has its own sanctity, and then they will have to make up that day that they broke. We talked about food, now sexual intercourse. Any penetration of the male reproductive organ in any of the private parts will break the fast for both genders. So it breaks the fast for both, not just the male. So this is the definition of sexual intercourse, the Islamic definition of sexual intercourse. The fast is invalidated even without ejaculation. So as long as there's a penetration, then that would invalidate the fast. The fast is broken for both, as we said. Now, if someone forgot that they were fasting, the fasting is not invalidated. Say someone, just the same goes with the food. If someone forgot that they were fasting and they, just like they ate, they went and they, for example, they had a relationship, then it does not invalidate. But the second they remember, they would have to stop. If they continue, then that would also invalidate the fast of that day. Now, if someone was forced into sexual intercourse, then their fast is not broken. Another thing, and here we'll stop after this, is masturbation. Which is the act of forcing oneself to ejaculate through means other than sexual intercourse, that would break the fast. So that is something that is forbidden. Not only does it break the fast, it is something haram. It's something that throughout the whole year and in any time, if someone commits that act, that's a sin. But it also breaks the fast of the one who is fasting. And there's a kafara for it. It's haram. It's a breaking the fast in a haram way. It's not an excused way to break the fast. Of course, involuntary ejaculation or a wet dream does not invalidate the fast. So if someone was sleeping and it was something that was involuntary, something that they did not force upon themselves, then that would not break the fast. And they could do ghusl whenever they wake. Whenever they wake up, whenever they have access to water, they could go do ghusl. So here, the issue here, they don't have to wake up and go do ghusl right away. You go and you do ghusl whenever it's time for you to pray. You don't have to rush into doing the ghusl. The other thing we mentioned and we're going to talk about later is al-baqa ala al-janaba, remaining in the state of janaba before fajr time. If you had done something which placed you in the state of janaba, which also ejaculation places you in the state of janaba, but if you had done that before fajr and you chose to not do the ghusl and fajr came, then that would make it and that would invalidate the fast. But say, for example, a person woke up after fajr and they had intended on fasting and they saw that they had involuntarily, had a wet dream, then in that case, they do ghusl whenever they have access to water. In order to pray, you would have to do ghusl. So you do that at your convenience. Now, regarding this, since we're here, masturbation is haram regardless, for the sake of the month of Ramadan or not. It breaks the fast, but it is something that is haram. A man asks Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, prove to me that it is haram. The Imam alayhi salam recited this verse in Surah Al-Mu'minun, the believers. Allah describes the mu'minun, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ. Then the verse goes, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. And they, the mu'minun, they are those who guard their private parts. إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ. Except from their wives or those their right hand possesses, for indeed they will not be blamed. And then Allah says in the Quran, and this is the part that the Imam alayhi salam was using, فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْعَادُونَ. But whoever seeks any means of pleasure beyond that, beyond azwajihim أو ما ملكت أيمانهم, then beyond that, then those are the transgressors. So any way of self-pleasure which is without your spouses, that is without your halal spouses, then that is something that is an act of transgression, and this falls under that. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he uses this verse to prove it. And in another hadith, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, Imam Sadiq, he says, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Inna Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, utiya bi rajul abatha bi dhakarah. They brought a person to Amir al-Mu'mineen who was caught masturbating. And Amir al-Mu'mineen, he struck this person on his hand. فَضَرَبَ يَدَهُ حَتَّى احْمَرَّتْ, until the person's hand became red. ثُمَّ زَوَّجَهُ مِنْ بَيْتِ الْمَالِ. Then Amir al-Mu'mineen went to the Bayt al-Mal, to the Muslim treasury, and he gave this person money and he tells him, go and get married. Because that is the solution. And with that, inshallah, we will do this one and we will finish. Ascribing something false to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to Rasulullah, or to the 12 Imams. So, say for example, I say, God said this, and God did not say that. I say Rasulullah said this, or the imam said this and they did not say that, that will invalidate the fast. Not only is it a lie, not only is it a fabrication, but it is something that will invalidate the fast. Of course, many of our books, many of the books of hadith are filled with lies attributed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is why we have to be very careful which hadith we accept and which hadith we reject. Rasulullah, he himself, he says, "Satakthur alayya al-kadhaba." There are going to be many people who lie and fabricate a hadith and attribute them to me. So here, scholars say, based on obligatory precaution, the fast is invalidated. So in this case, if someone knowingly, they said something that they know it's wrong, and they attributed it to God or the Prophet or the Imams, even if they were joking, you can't say something and say, no, but I was joking. When you're saying something, it's like going and eating and say, I was joking. That's something that breaks the fast. So we have to be very careful. And based on obligatory precaution, you would have to make up the fast, according to the view of Sayyid Sistani. Of course, they say Fatima al-Zahra is included in this. So she's included with the Imams as well. So say Fatima al-Zahra said this as well. This is something that invalidates the fast. Now, if someone quotes something that they believe is true, say, for example, you went and you took a book and you saw this in a book, you weren't making this up, and you mentioned this hadith thinking that it is true, but then it turns out to be fabricated, it turns out to be false, then here, in this case, the fasting does not become invalid. Now, the other way around, if someone ascribes something that he believes is false to God or the Prophet or the Imams, knowing that it would invalidate the fast, you know you think, you believe it's false, but then it turns out to be true. It turns out that Rasulullah really did say such a thing, or the Quran really did say such a thing. Based on obligatory precaution, this person must complete that fast and make it up later. So here, in this case, because this person was transgressing, this person didn't care, and they went ahead and tried to do something that is haram and something that breaks the fast. And when they're doing that, they're basically taking themselves out of the intention of fasting, out of the state of fasting. So narrating something false that someone else said does not invalidate the fast. So say, for example, I say, Abu Hurairah has narrated this from the Prophet, and that is something that is wrong, that is something that is not accepted. I say, Abu Hurairah said that, I'm just saying what someone else said, then in this case, that there's nothing wrong with that, and that does not invalidate the fasting. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi at-tahirin.